Good afternoon. Thank you for being here this afternoon, and Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everybody had a very nice holiday season, and that extends to people who are watching this on the Facebook feed. Happy New Year. I'm going to start off by discussing one of the biggest threats to our community. It's a topic that you're all very familiar with and something that I have prioritized in this office. And that is the influx of fentanyl over our border that is killing the citizens and residents of Maricopa County, as well as people across the country. Back in August of last year, Maricopa County Sheriff's deputies arrested 2 women who were on their way to Phoenix with roughly 850,000 fentanyl pills. The women admitted that this was something that they had done in the past. They were actively bringing drugs into our community, and these drugs are killing people. Last week, after being prosecuted by my office, the 2 women were each sentenced to 3.5 years in prison for their crimes. Now, we're very aware in this office that these are not, as the saying goes, the head of the snake. These are not the people that are making the drugs. These are not the people that are most benefiting from selling and transporting the drugs. But they are nevertheless individuals who did benefit from bringing these drugs in. And people in this community need to understand that when you engage in this type of behavior, no matter how alluring the money behind it might be, you are bringing death into our community. This is not just some drug. This is actually a poison. Just to give you an example of the crisis that Maricopa County and Arizona are facing, just last week, a state back east announced that in the entire year of 2022, they had confiscated 1.9 million fentanyl pills. In 2022, the DEA in Phoenix confiscated 22 million pills. We know that we are a border state, and we are the point of entry for the rest of the United States for these dangerous drugs. So I have 2 messages today. 1, do not bring drugs into this community. You will be held accountable. 2, I am committed to working with law enforcement, the state legislature, the federal government, and also the Board of Supervisors to address the security of our border and our county. This morning I attended the Board of Supervisors passing of the gavel ceremony, and I listened to the address by Clint Hickman, the new chairman of the Board of Supervisors, and he is making fentanyl a priority for Maricopa County as well, and I applaud that, and we will work together with them as well. Fentanyl in our community is a full-fledged crisis, and we must do more, and this office is committed to doing more. With that, I'll take your questions.
Yeah, so I have a couple questions about a case.
Okay.
Yeah, so activists have raised some concerns about it. It involves someone named Bruce Beekman, who's currently serving time in the Department of Corrections. The incident, from my understanding, and obviously I've read the reports, some things are in dispute, but he splashed water outside of his cell at a passing officer when he was having some kind of psychotic break or mental episode. That doesn't really seem to be in dispute, but he has some pretty serious documented history of mental illness. He gets water on this officer's uniform, and your office is moving forward with charges of assault against a correctional officer. And I'm just wondering, could you provide some insight into why these charges are moving forward?
So the question pertains to an inmate that was spitting water on a correctional guard. I understand that there are some significant concerns about a mental health situation in this individual's life. Obviously, this is an active case, so I can't really go into the details of it. What I will say is that we're aware of that, and we will take that into account in any sort of disposition of this. But of course, many of the materials we've received pertaining to that have to do with, I believe, the department's handling of it, not MCAO's. So.
Yeah, but was that not taken into account? It could have been that you saw that the fact that he has a history of mental illness and chose not to bring charges, and he had a guilty verdict within the administrative Department of Corrections, sort of their system. You could have chosen not to bring criminal charges against him. He's already serving a sentence for a parole violation. I mean, can you give any more insight into why you decided to bring those charges initially?
Well, the fact is the individual did engage, and obviously charges are not evidence, and the person is entitled to, presumption of innocence. But the information that we had was that the individual did engage in behavior that could jeopardize somebody else, and so we have to respond to that. Not having, all of the resources that you would like to for people who have mental health issues doesn't mean that we should completely ignore behavior that people engage in that jeopardizes someone else. And so, again, we're aware of it, we'll take it into account, but that doesn't mean we will ignore behavior either.
I mean, looking more broadly, do you think that there's a pattern of overcharging this kind of specific case, like involving assault on an officer? I mean, I know that was a concern that was raised by April Sponsel, who was terminated shortly after you took office. Have you seen that pattern in the office's history of charging those cases?
So have I seen a pattern? No, I have not seen a pattern in overcharging. Did I see instances of it? I did, and as you know, I took decisive action in the matter involving Ms. Sponsel. Obviously, there are 1,000 employees in this office, and we're trying to supervise that many individuals making decisions. If there's a situation that we become aware of that is inappropriately charged, we're certainly going to take a look at it. I don't have a problem with knocking charges down. I don't have a problem with dismissing charges when appropriate. That's not what we're about. What we're about is doing justice, and that means justice for the victims, but it also means justice for the accused. So,
do you think did Sponsel's case raise any concerns that you felt like needed to be addressed from a more systemic approach? Like what sort of ways do you think the office, what steps do you think the office might have taken or should be taking to address that kind of pattern of misconduct?
Because this is there is pending litigation regarding that, I'm not going to go into details about that. But I was brought in after the fact to look at that, and I did take a variety of steps, including, as you know, termination. So I do take it very seriously, and it is not okay with me that people would use the law to overcharge individuals. Like I said, if there are examples of that, I would be more than willing to take a look at them and to take appropriate action on them. Yes, sir.
Can I just get your thoughts on Phoenix PD opening up its use of force policy to public comment?
Just that they are opening it up for public comment? Well,
yeah.
I mean, I without just speaking generically about that, I would say that seems to me to be a very effort to be transparent about the process and to get the input from individuals who may have, experienced something personally, or they know somebody that's experienced something personally. So I really applaud them for getting the community input.
And can I also just get your thoughts on how rare it is that prosecutors pursue charges on police officers for excess use of force? How rare? How rare it is?
Actually, we do get charges on them. I can't quantify that as rare. We do get them. We review them as we review any other type of case. Obviously, we've just reviewed some recently, and so I would not characterize it as rare. Anything else?
Do you have an update on staffing at the office?
Yeah. As you know, we were down pretty much across the board, give or take a percentage, 20% in pretty much every capacity. The update I've gotten most recently is that we have gotten that to under 9%. And that was also with facing another 20% of the people in the office being eligible for retirement. So we have really achieved a lot. As a matter of fact, I recently went to an out-of-state conference for prosecutors and was talking about the success of our recruitment campaign. to other offices represented from across the country, and they were all expressing, you know, similar concerns, and were very interested in what we were doing to.
Is there anything specific you would like attribute the success to?
You know, I would, so what would I attribute the success to? I think it's a multitude of factors. Number one, the recruitment campaign, I think, is very professionally done, and I think it really speaks to what prosecutors do. I think the perception that prosecutors are just, you know, mean people that put people in prison and are not, you know, concerned about the community, concerned about the victims, and concerned about upholding people's rights. That needs to be conveyed. And, you know, as to your earlier questions, I mean, obviously it's heartbreaking when somebody is suffering from mental illness, and it's difficult when you don't have a complete system to address that, you know, and it ends up in the criminal justice system. But as far as the recruitment, it also has to do with the Board of Supervisors gave us a market adjustment so that we could compete to get lawyers here. We've also offered people moving expense reimbursement, which includes moving their license here, because that can be a pretty pricey kind of thing. And so in exchange for reimbursing them, then they have to give us so many years of service here. I also think that the morale has just turned around 180 degrees. When you have somebody, and this is not to blow my own horn alone, we have great leadership in this office. And when that leadership is empowered, and when that leadership is present and moving this office forward and fulfilling the mission of this office, which is to do justice, morale turns around. And that's happened, and people are staying, people are coming, and it's just, you know, I get stopped in the hallway all the time by employees of this office, just so grateful for the way it's being run right now, and it's really heartening.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, thank you. Have a good day.